Welcome back. We are in slide number 9, and in this particular slide we are seeing types of releases WiMAX has. There are primarily two major releases which WiMAX has. One of them is called WiMAX Release 1.0, which is commercial today and available. Certifications is completed, and we have variety of products of this release. We also have a release called 2.0, which is also called a 16M release, and will be based on a new profile which will be called 802.16M. The current release, which is WiMAX 1.0, is collection of features which has key ingredients like OFDMA, and it's TDD in nature, supports variety of bands, 2.3, 2.5, 3.4, 3.8 recently added, and supports channel bandwidth of 5 and 10, and due to MIMO and advanced antenna configurations, the peak data rate that can be achieved with 1.0 release is 46 Mbps, an average spectral efficiency of 1.3 bits per hertz per second, and this is per sector, and has an average spectral efficiency of 0.7 bits per hertz per sector. Now this spectral efficiency is essentially 2 times better than any 3G technology, and especially as compared to HSPA release 6. Support for advanced antenna systems, and also supports all kind of configurations like 2x2 and 4x2, etc. 1.5, which is also a part of WiMAX release 1 and would be ready in next 9 to 12 months, has additional elements like support for an FDD, and also an additional band called 700 megahertz and 2 gigs. It supports wide channel bandwidth. There is an optional support of 20 megahertz channels. It due to the higher channel bandwidth, it supports much higher peak data rate, and also has an improvement in spectral efficiency from 1.0, and supports 64 QAM profile in uplink, and also has an improvement in spectral efficiency. So new methods of closed loop and open loop with a new permutation scheme called AMC is identified in this release, and due to the support of new permutation, there is an improvement in average spectral efficiency in downlink and also in uplink, and coupled with 64 QAM, it overall supports much higher spectral efficiency. Release 1.0 to 1.5 would be mostly software, if based on same kind of antenna configuration, but may require a couple of elements upgradation in core network, especially when we see the next slide, in which we can see in 1.5 release requires some kind of support some kind of additional features like multicast and broadcast, location based services, and especially GPS based locations, and other features. So basically some components like location server or multicast server would be required, but essentially this release of 1.5 from 1.0 in the RAM perspective would be mostly software driven. Now there is in the release 2.0 the 5 feature. I want to highlight to my audience that there is an improvement of 2 times in average spectral efficiency, and so 1.3 has gone to 2.6 in similar antenna configuration, and that is the performance that WiMAX 2.0 is targeting. And in uplink, the average spectral efficiency from 1.0 is double to 1.3. So there is pretty much 2 times more spectral efficiency in same antenna configuration in WiMAX 2.0, and there is support for 20 megahertz mandatory and 40 megahertz optional, and also has an support for multi-carrier up to 100 megahertz. So in 2.0 in the similar amount of channel bandwidth, spectral efficiency is improved, and also has support for higher antenna systems, especially multi-user MIMO, and maybe support for more interference mitigation mechanisms, and maybe an support for coordinated MIMO or beamforming, etc. If you see the map feature, the one that I wanted to highlight between 1.0 and 1.5 and 1.6 is 1.0 is predominantly an static QoS based profile, supports E-based method, supports mobility with SIMIP and proxy mobile IP ways, supports both kind of IP connectivity, IPv4 and IPv6. It also has support for radius interface and supports portable, mobile and nomadic access. In 1.5 we have enhanced features like location based services, multicast and broadcast services, also and coexistence of WiMAX and Wi-Fi. In 1.6 femtocell has been introduced, and I think 1.6 the intent is to be ready by Q2 of 2010, and the release 2 is expected to be completed by first quarter of 2011. And in release 2.0, apart from higher spectral efficiency, more advanced antenna configuration, latency would be significantly reduced. So the plan is to go to less than 10 millisecond in release 2.0, and also improve an architecture in which the radio resource management might move to base station side, so we will reduce latency, and also and there is an intent to support much higher speeds up to 500 km per hour. Much higher voice call per megahertz is also an intent, and the introduction of a concept called self-organizing capability to reduce operations and maintenance, and also a support for multi-hop relays in 2.0. So in nutshell, there are two releases. One is WiMAX 1 and WiMAX 2, and WiMAX 1 with 1.0 feature is commercial. 1.5 would be ready by next 9 months, and we will see WiMAX 2.0 by first quarter of 2011, which will also coincide with the IMT advanced requirement. We are on slide number 11, and in this particular slide, now the key message is that WiMAX has identified 3 global bands for deployment: 2.3 to 2.4, 2.5 to 2.690, and 3.4 to 3.6 gigahertz band. And pretty much these 3 global frequency band is available for operators for deployment. Let me highlight some of the key deployments in 2.3 and 2.4. So in Korea, we have KT Vibro deployment in 2.3, 2.4, and there are a couple of operators from Malaysia who's announced deployment, YTL Communications and Packet One and others. I think most of the bigger mobile WiMAX deployment, which has higher quantity of base stations, is being deployed in 2.5. Prominent operators are Clearwire in US, Yota in Russia, UQ Communications in Japan, and a couple of more operators in other parts, like in Russia we have Comstar and plenty of more. And most of the fixed and nomadic networks are deployed in 3.4 to 3.6 band, and we found that there is a good amount of spectrum which is available in 3.4 to 3.6 gigahertz band. So in slide number 12, we are essentially giving a message that there are 3 global frequency band which is available for WiMAX deployment, and these are new bands which are not a part of the earlier technologies like 3G, and these bands have sufficient amount of spectrum, and most of the operator has got 30 megahertz per operator, and this is a good amount of spectrum to actually offer broadband based services, which actually requires a large amount of data to be transmitted over wireless.